I consider myself a collector of the crafts and a contributor to the crafts, or a supporter of the crafts. Before I went to Alfred, I didn't really have any appreciation at all for specific crafts. I mean, I knew the art world. I'd been in museums before, but I'd never really been close to the craft world. Every now and then, being an engineering student, we were still working with clay. I ultimately became a ceramic engineer and worked in the brick and tile industry for my first work here in Reading, Pennsylvania. Clay became part of my life a little bit in that sense. So I would wander into the art school from the engineering labs and watch some of these people throw pots and make pots. Eventually I just tried a few myself, So that's how I really got started, but I didn't do anything in the way of making as a maker myself after a little bit of exposure in college until I retired from business, actually. My more involvement in the craft movement really came after my first wife passed away, and I was a trustee at Alfred University. And there I reacquainted with several of the professors there, Bob Turner and Wayne Higbee, and folks that were already involved in different ways in the craft movement. And so they said, well, Marlin, if you have time, why don't you join the Haystack Board, the Haystack Craft School Board? So I thought that was a good idea. My first wife had actually gone there for one summer, so I knew something about it, but I'd never visited it really. So I joined the Haystack Board and stayed on that board for the next 18 years. And in the process of that, met a lot of other artists outside the ceramic world. By that time I was married to Ginger then, who is an artist herself, a watercolor artist, but also a fiber artist. We together got to know several of the fiber artists, like Gerhard Nodell, who was just honored 2 years ago by the Craft Council, and Cynthia Shearer and Jack Larson. Jack Larson did the window treatments for our house here. And so we got acquainted with many of those artists, I'll call them fiber artists, as well as the ceramic artists. And wood, the Nakashima, we became real fans of the Nakashima, so when we built this house, we bought dining room table and other things that were really part of the woodworking world. And so that's how it continued to grow as a interest in the arts. I think back with great fondness with the fact that my first roommate in college was an art student, and that I had the good fortune to marry two artists. Those had been different situations. My life would be entirely different, I'm sure. I don't know what direction it would have been, but I never said I wish that I would have taken a different fork. I have really felt blessed with the opportunity to be involved with artists and their work and follow that track. It's been a great avocation, if you will. When I think back about the opportunities I've had in getting to know artists and organizations that are involved in the art world, that I think it is very important that people think supportively of it. Every time you buy a piece of art from an artist, you're really helping the whole movement, because it's letting that artist do the next piece or the piece after that. And every time you have an opportunity to contribute to one of the major arts organizations, you're making sure that it's going to be around for future generations. It's important to be not only an acquirer, but a supporter.